Luka Dončić was the king of cool and talent, until his reputation finally cracked. It is a double tech for the initial shove and the retaliation that followed. Basically, the officials are slapping both Williams and Luka with technical fouls.
After a bombshell suspension, he erupts in a heated, no-holds-barred press conference, firing off explosive remarks that have fans and critics buzzing.
The exact moment his world turned upside down. Rewind to March 27th, 2026. Lakers hosting the Brooklyn Nets at Crypto.com Arena. Luka was primed for a legendary night. For the better part of the matchup, he was doing exactly that. The guy was literally all over the court, totally untouchable. Playing like a beast, he shredded the Nets defense. Once the clock hit 0, Doncic finished with 41 points, hitting 15 of 25 shots. He drained 5 triples and grabbed 8 boards, plus 3 assists and steals in 39 minutes. Lakers cruised 116-99. A total blowout, yet the box score was the last thing on anyone's mind. Nobody cared about the win percentage anymore. Postseason seeding and Western Conference ranks were completely forgotten. Every eye was on one play. 5 minutes and 12 seconds left in the third. A shove, a swing, and a ref who had seen enough. Here is the breakdown. Lakers were inbounding the ball after a Brooklyn dunk. The whistle had just blown Doncic for an offensive foul. Not the best mood for a player trying to stay composed. That is when Ziaire Williams, the guy who just dunked, got right in Luka's grill. According to Luka, Williams screamed at him 3 separate times, point blank. This is where we get 2 different accounts of the chaos. The league's report claims Doncic initiated the contact. Replay showed the push, then Williams swinging toward Luka's neck area. Head official Sean Wright handed out double technicals. 1 for Luka, 1 for Williams. We are looking at double technicals here for the shove and the follow-up. In short, both Williams and Luka are getting hit with techs. And there it is, the tipping point. That single whistle shifted the entire season because of what that foul represented. For Doncic, this was not just any technical, it was his 16th. Per league policy, 16 techs means a mandatory 1-game suspension with 0 pay. No way to fight it, and no appeals are allowed. Reach 16, and you are benched. Luka just crossed that line. On March 28th, 2026, the NBA made it official. Doncic was out for the home game against Washington on March 30th. Season momentum halted in a heartbeat. You might think, hey, it is just the Wizards, no big deal. Sure, the schedule could have been much tougher. But the real story is how Luka walked into that media room post-game. Still drenched in sweat after dropping 41, he let it be known the NBA blew the call. Let's get the story direct from the source. Post-game, Doncic hit the podium and spilled everything without holding back a single word. You could see the sheer annoyance and total bafflement on his face. More than anything, he seemed like a guy who felt cheated on a global stage, according to his words. Here is what he actually had to say regarding that Ziaire Williams situation. Look, to be real, I wasn't even attempting to do anything, you know? He made a threat against my family. Actually, he was referencing a whole separate drama right there. We are going to dive into that detail in just a sec. That footage alone sums up exactly where Luka's mindset has been all year. He feels baited, like opponents are playing him while the refs only seem to have eyes for his fouls. Shifting focus back to that specific matchup against the Nets, during his remarks after the final buzzer, Doncic broke down the Williams clash using very direct, no-nonsense language. He claimed Williams got in his personal space shouting 3 times, while he was just trying to walk away. He stayed silent, but the kicker was the refs calling his shove over the top. He completely rejected that version of events. A double technical, obviously. I mean, what is there to even say? I did not open my mouth. I tried to leave, yet they are claiming I was the aggressor. They said I overreacted with that shove, but that is total nonsense. I am at a loss for words here. That guy is clearly fuming over how that play was officiated. Even after dropping 41 points, he is hurting because he actually lost a whole lot more than just the game. This sideline stint is going to drain about $264,000 from his pocket, which is roughly 1/174th of his yearly pay under league rules. Imagine losing nearly $250,000 for a shove he says did not even happen. And that is where this story starts getting really complicated. See, this was not the first time Luka hit 16 techs this season. He hit that same limit just 9 days before this. How that first one got tossed out is a total roller coaster. Keep watching for this. Back on March 21st, less than a week before the Nets clash, things got ugly between him and Orlando's Goga Bitadze. They were jawing at each other right on the charity stripe. Tempers flared, and the second the ref stepped in, Donic's tech count hit 16 again, but this time his squad went to bat for him. After a formal appeal, the league wiped the tech, dropping his total back to 15. The suspension vanished, and Luka was off the hook. But the real tea is what Donic said about that whole blow-up, because it sheds a ton of light on his mindset going into the Brooklyn game. Look, eventually you feel like it is your house, your court, you know? He admitted he could not take it anymore, especially since the insults were in Serbian. He claimed Bitadze crossed the line with a remark about his relatives. It was a nasty personal jab that Luka simply could not let slide. He knew he should have stayed cool, but he was adamant he had to fire back. Based on what Donic himself reported, Bitadze supposedly stood at the line and made a disgusting threat toward his entire family. Bitadze played it off, saying Donic started the beef. However, after a league review, they backed the appeal and scrubbed that technical foul from his record. Let's look at the real takeaway here. Entering the Brooklyn matchup, Doncic sat at 15 techs, teetering on the edge of an automatic ban. The guy realized exactly what was on the line. Yet, when Ziaire Williams started chirping, Luka couldn't resist firing back with a shove. The whistle blew, marking his 16th technical for the second time this year. LA managed to dodge the bullet once before. This time, the N Bachelor of Arts didn't budge, revealing plenty about our main character's temperament. Luka lives on that razor's edge, it's just how he's built. That raw intensity and his habit of speaking his mind are undeniable. Those traits fuel his status as the league's most thrilling superstar today. It's why he's dropping 33.7 points a night to lead the league. That drive pushed him to hang 41 on the Nets, despite knowing one more outburst meant a mandatory vacation. But that fire burns him too, forcing him to watch from the sidelines while his squad struggles. A $264,000 reality check for the whole organization. Fast forward to Sunday morning, March 29th, 2026. As the Lakers gear up for practice, reporters are already circling the building. LA's bench boss, JJ Redick, steps up to the mic to face questions about Luka's mindset and the team's morale. Give credit to Redick, he didn't shy away from the heat. He delivered a clinical performance on shielding his franchise player, rallying the roster while maintaining total transparency. We need to dissect those interview notes because they highlight the current atmosphere brewing inside the Lakers camp. Let's dive into the biggest takeaway first. Luka's reaction, pure frustration at himself. Look, he just wants to compete alongside his brothers, period. There was no locker room, tantrum, or equipment being smashed. He wasn't making threats or begging for an appeal. He was just gutted because he hates being a spectator. I've said it before, he's the type who plays through everything, never hunting for a rest day. That bit of background info is quite telling. Redick isn't merely calling the plays, he's a former teammate. Having shared the floor in Dallas, he understands Luka's psyche better than anyone. His message is clear. Luka isn't built for the bench. Standing still violates his very nature. Redick emphasized that Doncic pushes through pain, defining his grit as his core identity. This suspension stings more because it wasn't a physical breakdown. He isn't sidelined by some flu. The front office effectively grounded him, saying, "Stay home tonight." For a competitor like him, that's more painful than a sprained ankle. This is where JJ showed his real leadership. Instead of letting the squad panic over missing their leader, he flipped the script and labeled this a mental reset. He saw it as a moment for the group to inhale and unite. He highlighted the bench players who usually fly under the radar, guys who really delivered whenever they got the chance. Look at Ronnie and Fando, they've both had some massive plays. Maxey showed up too, but look, we need a full squad effort here. That's the bottom line. It's about the whole team, not just Luka. Everyone. Redick made a solid point. LA is huge, and everyone lives miles apart. You've got guys in Manhattan Beach, others in Calabasas or the West Side. You could go weeks without actually hanging out with the team off the court. Redick saw golf as a rare chance for a 4-hour escape from the grind, no cameras, just guys talking and actually being human for once. Now, here's the angle of Redick's presser that's being overlooked. He took a mess involving a suspension, a fine, and an angry star, and pivoted the whole narrative to team chemistry. He turned the focus onto their roster depth. It became about the unsung heroes stepping up in the clutch. That's top-tier coaching. That's real leadership. But don't get it twisted, the stakes were sky high. We're talking only 7 or 8 matchups left in the regular season. The Lakers were sitting at 48-26 heading into that weekend. Every single win is vital for their playoff positioning in the West. You can't afford to blow games in late March, especially against bottom feeders. Luckily for them, and the timing here is actually pretty perfect for the Lakers, they were facing the Washington Wizards, basically one of the league's worst teams all year. Most analysts and fans viewed the Wizards game as the ideal rest day because Washington has been struggling so hard lately. So yeah, Luka sits out, but it's this game. Not against the Cavs, not against OKC or the Celtics teams that could actually ruin the Lakers season. It's the Wizards. They're the one opponent where playing without Luka, even a guy dropping 33.7 points every night, isn't a total train wreck. People expected LeBron, Austin Reeves, and the rest of the crew to handle business. But there's a bigger layer to this than just Luka missing a night in DC. This is what really impacts their long-term outlook. After hitting 16 technical fouls, every 2 techs, Doncic picks up triggers another automatic 1-game ban. Plus, every subsequent one carries a $5,000 fine. With the playoffs right there, the heat is on Luka to keep his cool big time. The silver lining, technical foul counts completely reset for the postseason. It's a clean slate, a fresh start. All those flags he's racked up since October? They vanish the second the playoffs start, but he has to get there first. He needs to survive these final 8 games without getting hit with 2 more techs. Looking at his track record and how he's been acting this season, that's a lot harder than it sounds. Doncic is cleared to return for the Lakers versus Cavs on April 1st, and when he's back, the moment he returns to the court to compete once more, he'll be playing with a bullseye on him, as every league official now realizes Luka is just one outburst away from blowing another win for his squad. That heavy burden doesn't simply vanish just because you drop 41 points. This leads us to the core mystery of this entire saga. It's not just about the Brooklyn game or the suspension, but about his whole season and who Luka really is, what truly motivates him, and if his best asset is actually his downfall, the flame that drives and consumes him. Imagine a version of the star who just hoops. He handles the rock, gets buckets, finds teammates, defends, and whenever a whistle goes against him, he just shrugs, heads back down court, and stays locked into the next possession. That version of the player wouldn't be sitting on 16 technical fouls. He wouldn't be sidelined or losing $264,000 in one night. But that version also likely wouldn't be averaging 33.7 points. He probably wouldn't torch Brooklyn for 41 while his whole year hangs by a thread. That version wouldn't be the most electrifying, most talked about force in the NBA right now. Because the reality of Luka, which any close observer understands, is that his passion and his penalties share the same DNA. They aren't separate traits. They're one and the same, 2 sides of a single coin. He has been on an absolute scoring rampage this year, posting nearly 39.7 points nightly over his last 12 games before the ban. Just process that. Dropping 40 for 12 straight outings isn't the work of someone taking it easy. This isn't a man just coasting through the regular season grind. We are seeing a level of ferocity that very few professional athletes ever reach. And that raw intensity, that obsessive, almost desperate drive to compete, to win, and to refuse to be outworked or overlooked, is exactly why he's a nightmare to officiate. When you're that invested, every call feels personal. Every blow of the whistle feels like a targeted hit. Every jab from a rival feels like something that demands an immediate answer. He is currently leading the pack in technicals and has a long history of finishing near the top of that list year after year. This isn't some fresh narrative. It's a well-documented, consistent cycle of a man who cannot detach his feelings from the game. And believe me, the media took notice. Let's look at the fallout, because while the press conference was one thing, the aftermath of the suspension news revealed exactly how the Hoops world views him right now. Major outlets like ESPN and CBS Sports, along with Yahoo and The Athletic, viewed the ban as standard league discipline. A basic rollout of the NBA's automatic penalty system. No scandal, no emergency, just the policy working as intended. But not everyone was quite so composed. Former pro Joe Johnson emerged as one of his harshest critics, blasting the star for what he called a total lack of situational awareness, especially with the team fighting for playoff seeding while he's in an MVP caliber run. Johnson basically called it a total disaster in judgment. Though that phrasing is vivid, the underlying issue is critical. You're an elite global talent. You are currently the league's top scorer. Your squad is fighting for playoff position out west, yet you let some guy chirping in your face get to you. You let mere words, not even a physical fight, cost you the match. That's the critique, and it hits the mark. Social media is split. Some fans claim the NBA has a vendetta against Luka, while others say he needs to control his temper to avoid these penalties. The gap is massive. Some see a warrior who won't be bullied. Others see a guy handing his rivals exactly what they're fishing for, a reaction. Really think about that for a moment. Consider what Ziaire Williams actually gains. He chirps at Luka 3 times. Luka shoves him, Williams swings back, and they both get hit with technicals. But look at the payoff. Williams loses nothing. Williams stays on the court. Luka, the MVP favorite who just torched that squad for 41 points, sits on the bench on March 30th, relegated to watching the game on a locker room monitor. So, who really won that trade? Doncic joins Dillon Brooks as only the second player suspended for technical foul limits in the entire 2025-26 season. In a league with hundreds of pros, only 2 people got benched, and he is one of them. Revisit Luka's own comments, because his press conference wasn't just about blowing off steam. It was a look into his internal wiring. When he mentioned the Batsy drama, saying he couldn't just stand by while his family was insulted, you could hear something deeper than game time frustration. It was personal. That is a man with a moral code regarding respect, regardless of the game clock. He knows the price. He admitted he let everyone down today. He recognizes the fallout, the fines, and the potential for suspension. The headlines will focus on his technical rather than his 41 points. He sees it all coming and still won't stop. That isn't weakness. It's not stupidity either. It's simply who he is. That fire was forged in Slovenia, where he was already taking on grown men at 15 years old. He's always refused to let anyone tell him he's not the best. That drive doesn't have an off switch. You can channel it, but you can't kill it. JJ Redick spoke on this mid-season, noting Luka's awareness of the tech limit and his efforts to stay under it. And that's a fact. The Lakers even won an appeal on a technical earlier this season before the Orlando game. They are tracking every single whistle, fighting every questionable call to save their star from his own instincts as much as the officials. Yet no legal appeal can fix this internal conflict. Redick has consistently praised Doncic's competitive drive as his superpower, stating he'd choose a fiery player over a passive one any day. But at the same time, that inner rage is why he's racking up fouls. You can't take the good without the bad. It's hypocritical to cheer for his grit while acting like the technicals are just some random mistake. They are 2 sides of the same coin. Period. Pundits are debating if that double tech against Brooklyn really deserved to trigger a mandatory sit-out, especially since it was basically a nothing burger compared to the league's nastier brawls. As shove and swipe, officials checked the tape and neither move was deemed flagrant. It really highlights the flaws in the league's rigid point system. See, the rule is blind. It doesn't give a damn about the backstory. It treats a massive meltdown the same as a tiny bump. Number 16 carries the same weight as number 1. Even if your rivals are trash-talking in a tongue, the refs can't even understand. Your stats do not save you either. 16 means 16. You're out. Back in March, specifically on the 8th, he also got hit with a $50,000 fine for a gesture. Basically, we aren't just talking about him yapping. It's a full-blown habit of losing his cool, and the consequences finally hit him as the season wraps up. Now that the postseason is breathing down our necks, folks in Los Angeles are wondering one thing. Did Luka actually get the message? Luckily, the foul count goes back to 0 for the playoffs. That's his get-out-of-jail-free card. No matter what goes down before the final buzzer of the season, Luka gets a fresh start once the real games begin. No baggage, no looming suspensions, just pure hoops. His comeback is set for April 1st against the Cavs. And Cleveland? They're a total powerhouse. It's the perfect stage for his intensity to shine instead of blowing up. Dropping 41 points there hits different than doing it against Brooklyn on some quiet Thursday. That duality is exactly why he's so messy, hypnotic, and impossible to ignore. He's definitely flawed. His temper has drained his bank account and sat him on the bench. He vents to the media when he should probably just keep his mouth shut. But when it's crunch time and the pressure is at its peak, he is the ultimate threat, fully locked in and ready to walk through hell to secure the win. That same drive that got him 33.7 points per night this year is the exact same reason he's apologizing for a technical after a 41-point masterpiece. It is all one. Always has been, always will. Once those 16 fouls vanish and the real games start, you can bet that spark will turn into a wildfire. Sure, it's risky. Maybe he lacks restraint. It might cost him over $264,000 in a night against Washington, but that's just Luka. For the 2025-26 season, he's exactly what the Lakers need. Mind blown by this breakdown? Don't miss out on the other killer content right here. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Catch you in the upcoming upload.